Greetings, tunnel grubbers. Welcome to another episode of the Hidden London Hangouts. My name's Alex. What do we do here? We uncover London's secrets. And today, you're not going to believe what we're going to show you. A piece of technology which was flawed from the start in a station which is stunning. I don't need to do this on my own. I've got three amazing people from the London Transport Museum to guide us through the history and to make us giggle as well. And kicking it all off, Chris Nix from the museum is our star of the day, number one. Hello.
Good morning, Alex. How very nice to see you. Hope you're well. I've been struggling to remember the name of this station. I can't think why.
Do you know, it will come to us eventually. City Holloway, star 2.
Hello, good morning. I'm very excited about this station, as you will later see. It's one of my all-time favorites, in fact.
Oh, I bet it is. I bet it is. Laura Hilton Brown, star number 3. We've got some amazing tiles for you today.
Do you know what? I'm super excited about the tiles. And I've never been to this station, to the disused part or the actual station. So I'm super excited about that too. So
it's a cryptic station name. The team is quite excited about it. Of course, it's City Holloway. Right. City Holloway was effectively named after this station, Holloway Road on the Piccadilly line. It is beautiful. First of all, Laura, your first impressions of this station from the stuff we've shown you, it is glorious, isn't it?
I think, yeah, you said before, I liked your little bit of alliteration as well. You said it was a stunning station. And I think that just sums it up. I've not been, I've only seen images, but I'm still getting that little goosebump moment just from the images, which shows me that if I was down there, I would be totally blown away. So yeah, I'm super excited.
Brilliant stuff. Let's kick off history lesson time. First of all, Chris Nix, take us back to 1906 when London's underground railways, the map exploded, didn't it? Loads of stations opening up, and this was one of them.
Yeah, Great Northern Piccadilly and Brompton Railway opened in 1906, and it's on the 15th of December, opened the doors to Holloway Road Station. Very handsome looking Leslie Green station, typical red, oxblood red tiled Leeds fire clay tiled facade, instantly recognisable like many of the others we've talked about from that era. And yeah, very nice inside as well. Beautiful ticket hall, unusually glazed roof in places as well. So quite airy inside it. Not that far below the ground for a deep tube station either, and that'll be important in a later story. So yeah, fairly straightforward station. Lots of interesting stuff to have a look around, and a very important bit of technology was tried out in this station, which gives it extra bonus points for interest.
We know what's coming on this episode. You will not want to miss this. It is fascinating stuff. And since it is named after City, obviously, City, talk us through the frontage, because we can see it and you can describe it.
So this is one of my all-time favorite stations for obvious reasons, yes. But obviously also because it's such a beautiful example of a Leslie Green station that's still in place, and it's largely as it was when it opened. This image, however, is probably a few years after it opened, because we've got the canopy on the outside there, you see, which is still there today. Which is something they did to a couple of stations to try and make them a bit more visible from the road. We can sort of see Holloway Road. Just, do you see the lettering?
Yeah. It's
kind of a bit faded there. So I'm going to guess that this was kind of a little bit after it opened. But it's just a beautiful example of it. So many, we've got, 6 semicircular windows. We've got the flat roof. Interestingly, you see the exit is boarded up, and that's because of the kind of the layout on the inside, in that some of the lifts so one of the lift shafts was never used for lifts, and we'll get back to that later. So even though it was built for more capacity, they actually never used it as such. So it's got some similar themes to many of our other stations that we've talked about, in that they built it very grand, and then when it came to opening it, they kind of downsized a little bit. but I think it's gorgeous.
It's
And
stunning.
you're spot on there, Cindy. That was taken in 1932, that photo. So it's seen quite a bit of life by that point already.
And that was quite an important time in London Underground's evolution, wasn't it, Chris? Because that was a time when a lot of lifts were being taken out of stations and replaced by escalators.
Yeah, and stations were being shut and extensions were being created. So there was a lot going on the Underground in the early 30s. And so, yeah, it was a time of great change for stations like this.
And Laura, if you look at the tile work, I mean, this is a big station because there's 6 archways. I mean, you know, we always joke about Kentish Town being pretty big on the size front, but actually that 6 archways is big, isn't it?
I know, and do you know what? I completely agree with you guys. I mean, it's just a beautiful building visually, isn't it? Because you've got, I mean, I know we can't see the colour here, but that oxblood claret kind of burgundy tile, the 6 archways, 2 stories, lovely tile work. I mean, it really is beautiful, stunning. I'm going back to that word, stunning.
It always does, though, isn't it? It's such a pretty thing. Leslie Green did a wonderful job. And just to bear in mind, if you're living around the world and you've not actually been to London, Holloway Road itself is the start of the A1, what becomes a motorway. So it's a big, fat road in the middle of London, very, very busy, always busy, even at night. And it's smoky and dirty. And perhaps that explains why the frontage was a little bit grubby as well, because it was on a main road. And what can we see here, Chris? This is the booking hall, I guess.
Yeah, this is a few years earlier than the last photo, 1927. The photo taken of the inside of the booking hall, and yeah, again, very similar to other Leslie Green stations. That sort of kit of parts approach with the green wall tiles, the relief tiles there, which I think I'm correct, Sidney. I think they're pomegranates at this one.
They are pomegranates. Yeah, they are
unusual. If I actually, I should have just done a magic zoom.
Zoom.
Just about make out that they're pomegranate design, but I think we'll see them better later.
Just
kind of
colour on this, guys. This is those tiles at the bottom are green, aren't they?
Yes.
It's a deep green.
Yeah.
You've also got the ticket windows there on the right with the lamps over them, the original lamps of the ceiling in the booking hall. And if you look right at the back, you can just see where there's the skylights, which help to keep it light and airy, and the lifts off to the left in the background.
It's so pretty. It's so pretty. And of course, Siddy, tell us a story, because we've got a great picture of you taking a photograph of yourself outside your own station. Tell us how you got your name, Siddy Holloway. Beautiful. Look at that.
I didn't take it myself. Somebody else took it for me.
Well, clearly it took a crew along to do that.
I know. Well, you know, that's how committed I am to self-publicity. No, so I think I've told the story before, but I will tell it again. It's just, so I moved to London 11 years ago, and I went to drama school, and Siddy is my name. It is my nickname, believe it or not, but it's what I've been called since I basically was born. So it's my grandmother's name. And when it came time to graduate from drama school, we all had to kind of decide what we're going to be called as actors. And they felt, or, you know, at least at the time, I felt that my real last name was a little bit too difficult for people to pronounce, even though I personally don't think it's very difficult. But it tends to happen that people kind of look at it and go like, and it's, yeah. So I just thought, let's save us the trouble and not have that. And yeah, so I had to find a new last name for myself, and I looked for a long time and basically kind of tried out loads of different versions. And then one day I was visiting my great aunt up in Cockfosters.
Of course.
And I was on the Piccadilly line, and the next stop was Holloway Road, and I just thought, Holloway. And I thought, well, you know, sounded good. And then I thought it looked good with the 2 D's and the Y of Siddy and the 2 L's and the Y of Holloway. Just, I don't know. And then it just looked good. And then I kind of wrote it down. And from then on, it was Siddy Holloway, which is funny because that is many years before I ever started working for the Underground or anything related to the Tube. So maybe it was the Tube calling me early on.
Fated to be, clearly.
Yeah.
I also particularly love in that photo that Sidney, you're following the acting principles set out in an episode of Blackadder with the heroic stance, which is absolutely a cracking example of the heroic stance before speaking.
Oh, I
Amazing.
think that was just to help pull focus, actually. But all right.
Excellent.
I'm loving
Excellent.
it. I love a pulled focus.
Mm.
We'll be visiting City Arsenal in Series 4 as well, which would be rather lovely, and possibly City Cockfosters at another time.
Mr.
Grundon.
Terrible.
I mean, you know, there are ways and means to get a surname, aren't there? Looking up there as well, while we're on that picture, because this will become important soon, the green bridge is actually the Great Northeastern Railway out of King's Cross, and that in itself is going to be quite interesting in the telling of our story too, still to come. Now then, Law, do you want a gift?
Oh, hit me. Oh.
Bingo!
Look at that.
What's that?
There's so much.
How would you describe that colour, first of all? That sort of is it mustard? What would you call it?
So I'm going to go with the darker brown is chocolate and the lighter brown is salted caramel.
Oh, get
And
it.
see, I'm just thinking butterscotch. So
nice.
I'll
Well,
go for salted caramel.
In fact, it's when you go there, it's actually more of a red. It's like a burgundy brown, I would say.
Yeah. There is
And apparently, the official color of the orange ones is ginger.
Really?
well,
You see,
Yeah.
I would say that it's the brown, the dark brown is the brown of a teapot. It's
Yeah,
teapot brown.
Brown Betty Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you got? Wait, have you got more ones so we can
I
compare?
do.
'Cause
Yeah. Oh, that looks quite
see,
similar.
I feel like in this photo, it's a bit darker than it is in person.
Mm. Yeah. I think if you like them strongly, they do have a richness. There is a little bit of red in them. I think we might see that a little bit later in a different area. Underneath the fluorescent lights, they do tend to look quite flat, these tiles, but we'll see some more direct
Lovely,
lights a
though.
little later.
Still there, aren't they, as well? And so what would you say? Stairway to Heaven would be that tile pattern, Laura? What would you say?
Well, we were having a quick chat about this before, weren't we? Because I asked if zigzag was, a professional formal term I could use for it. Because when I see that, I think, oh, it's a really nice zigzag pattern. But we talked about an upturned chevron, maybe. Or
what about the graphics on a ZX81?
What's a ZX81?
Really dated.
Oh my word!
Oh,
Showing
Like an
our
old
ages.
computer or something, is it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think we've had a kind of a little brown tile color combo before, and I think I was rather scathing of it. But it is growing on me. It's not my most favorite kind of tile color. But if Siddy's like, because she's seen it with her eyes, and it's a bit of a burgundy and maybe a lighter brown, then I think that could be a really lovely color combo actually for a tile. But these
Go on.
say again, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, do you know what's really lovely about all of this? When you go to these tube stations, and it doesn't really matter about, for me, it doesn't really matter about the colour. It's the fact they're still there. And it just floods my moment on that platform with joy to think that all those years ago, 1906, these platforms were tiled. 1906, and they're still there. That's so amazing. And that's what's so rich and wonderful about our tube system, isn't it?
It is, and I think it also gives us ideas for how to, decorate our homes. This, for example, City, is how I imagine your kitchen or bathroom should be tiled.
Oh no!
A little bit self-aggrandizing, maybe. I don't know.
God.
I like
As much as I like it, I'm not a huge fan of the white and then the cream on the bottom. That screams like 70s furniture to me.
I'd have that in my downstairs bathroom any day.
Oh, would you see?
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know. I'm not a big fan. You know what's interesting is that so all of these northern stations on the Piccadilly line, so this one and the ones adjacent to it, so Caledonian Road, etc., they were tiled by G. Woollascroft.
Yeah.
Which
Oh,
was
we should have anybodyed that.
Oh, sorry. No, so but what's interesting is that his colors seem to be a little bit more muted maybe than the Moore and Company ones. They seem to be a lot a lot earthier, a lot more kind of, I guess, grounded. I mean, I say that, and then I think actually Caledonian Road is like a lilac purple.
And do you know what's interesting as well, Laura? I always think this when we look at these letters, is the way that some stations have got colons to divide off two words of the name. And I always think they look a little bit like an I when you see them, which is always quite novel in places like Kentish Town.
Yeah, I was just thinking that obviously the colon between Holloway and Road, but why at the beginning of Holloway as well?
Because City demanded it.
Okay, fair enough. Fair
City
enough.
expects symmetry.
Well, I mean, yeah, this is probably the best time to tell you that I'm actually a time walker, and I was around in 1906 and demanded all of this.
City she was chief grouter at Holloway Road all those years ago when she was. What's your surname, by the way? We need to practice your proper surname. What is it?
Ingolsdottir.
That's right.
Oh, well,
yes.
Ingolsdottir.
Yeah. Or you know, it's Ingolsdottir. Ingolsdottir. Well, it's not that hard. It's just Ingolf, which is my dad's name, and daughter, which is daughter. So Ingolf's daughter.
CD Ingolsdottir.
There'll be an exam on this at the end of the episode, Alex.
Can you imagine Cockneys in London going, "Where's you getting on the tube?" Ingolsdottir Road.
Yes,
I think it would actually be lovely.
I do too.
In little Iceland, which is a little tiny Icelandic community that maybe, you know, would have existed. I mean, it would only comprise of about 5 people, but
she's so gorgeous. We just love the bones of her. What's
Speaking of names, Sidney mentioned Bulliscroft, and it's been sat there all the while. There you go. It's actually on that maker's tile.
Oh, look, down there, just below the frieze.
Yeah.
On the little cream tile.
Oh, well spotted, Mr. Nix. That's brilliant. Great stuff. What we got next?
We were talking about the colour of the tiles under the fluorescence, but if we go behind the scenes, because actually we are about the disused side of things.
Yeah.
So let's actually go into the disused bit.
There we go.
There you go. See, with a decent direct light on it, you can see some of that richness and redness that Sidney was talking about, particularly if we just zoom in.
It's gorgeous. Yeah. It's, as always, totally right. The colours are different when they're not being lit by florries, isn't it, really? And just to navigate ourselves, guys, this is the passageways to what is effectively the not used lift shaft. Is that right?
Yes, it's the back passage.
So, well, that's excellent. Well done.
It's the back. Well, it's the back passage because, as we said, all of the Leslie Green stations, as you well know, had a one-way system, so one way in, one way out.
Yeah.
And this is the back side of that. So they never put that in use because I would assume they were economizing just before they opened and decided, okay, let's just put 2 lifts in, and if we're doing that, we might as well have them, be in and out rather than in out one way or the other. So that's what that is.
Well, here we are.
As I mentioned before,
passage. Yeah.
As I mentioned before, it's not that deep a station, so actually a lot of people use the stairs there. So the lifts,
easier access.
Yeah. Okay, so here's another photo of the tiles a bit further around the passage where you can see some of them are missing and showing their very distinctive herringbone pattern on the back. If we just take a slightly closer look. Now there you can see the glaze properly, can't you, on those? I'm going to stick with butterscotch tiles in the middle
the back passage, is it?
Yeah. It's quite dusty.
Sort of looks sort of like Garfield-y.
Oh, that'd be an excellent segue to a cat-related matter, wouldn't it? But not now.
Do you know what it reminds me of, actually? It reminds me of a cream slice.
Oh.
You know where they
cream slice?
And then they put a bit of chocolate on it and they get a cocktail stick and they drag it across the thing to make those like arrowheads on the top of a cream slice.
Vanilla slice.
Yes. I know what you mean now. Yeah. Vanilla slice. Vanilla slice, yeah.
I don't know what that is. So I'm just
it's confectionery.
We'll buy you one next time we're in London, Sids.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
And watch you eat it, because they're very difficult to eat without wearing it. So yeah, the backs of the tiles that we talked about before have these things called keystone to help them stick to the wall. And the way it works is they apply the grout or the cement to the wall and then apply the tile into it. And where you see those ridges in the cement, that is the back of the tile pushing into that cement and keystoning, hooking into the cement as it dries. And it's so effective that if you look really closely on one of those bits, when that tile was taken off, it snapped in two rather than let go. And two, if you just look at that chevron towards the right hand side, can you see there's a bit of the tile still stuck in the keystone of the cement?
Yeah.
So it's a very effective way of making sure that tiles don't fall off the walls.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shame we can't hire those people to tile our bathrooms, really, and it would probably wouldn't get things coming through the ceiling.
But it's amazing because you have to think, there's so much vibration that comes from the trains that, you need something sturdy on the walls for it to be long lasting.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. And they even tunnel, of course, in bands over the top of the tunnel. So you've got tiles hanging down from the ceiling, being shaken every time a train comes past. And the reason they stay there is because of those keystones.
Loving a bit of that crackle glaze as well, Law.
Yeah, the sorry, Chris. The one before this, the image before that. Super, yeah. When I saw this, boys, do you remember when we went to Trafalgar Square and we went behind the scenes there, and there was a load of cabling and wires, but the tiles behind it were surviving. And I love that because it's like the story. There's this little piece of history behind all of the craziness of the cabling, and it took my mind straight back here. But I think, Chris, you took this, so whatever light you're shining on as you take this image is really showing that lovely kind of iridescent glaze that you mentioned as well. And you can see here, exactly what Siddy said about the burgundy, but how, again, in the tiles, I mean, there's so much to go at this shot. The shade of both of the colours is so different in each tile. I mean, it's just amazing. I love when we're able to go to places like this, that as soon as you step kind of behind the door or you're going into the tunnel, it's like you're just stepping back in time, like you're going into history. And even just looking at these pictures is making me want to get back to it. I love it.
The thing when I took this shot, Laura, it was almost exactly a year ago. I just happened to be going through the station and had some time to spare. So I went in just to get some quick record shots, hence the slightly clumsy lighting. But it did serve to really make the tiles pop. And it's interesting, Siddy and I, having been there almost exactly a year apart, our spider senses were tingling on exactly the same things, including this next shot, which is a surviving wartime poster.
Yeah, this is really cool. I mean, when I saw this, and I am embarrassed to say that you did tell me about this a year ago, and I completely blanked you telling me. Sometimes I just don't listen clearly to you, Chris. I'm sorry.
Well, it was one of those things. I was so excited to see it that as soon as I got clear of the station, I was walking down the street phoning Siddy, going, you never guess what I found. And then a year later, you'd had the same experience and immediately phoned me to go, Chris, you never guess what I found.
You're yeah, I know. I told you a year ago. And I was like, no, you didn't. And we're no longer friends.
Guys, words. Look at the words. What is it? Is it? It's well to be clean. It's clean to be well. Is that right?
So
nearly.
So be clean to be well. So it's well to be clean. So be clean to be well. And the reason Chris and I got so excited about this is because we've only ever seen this particular poster, and it's not really a poster. It's more like a little banner or something.
Yeah.
And the only other place we've seen it is on a photograph from the lavatories at Clapham South Deep Level Shelter, where it's posted on one of the men's lavs. Right next to the urinals. So that means,
it's basically just saying, wash your hands, you dirty people.
Can you not be disgusting?
True.
And be clean, because it's kind of in all of our best interest. Sort of like the 20-second hand washing notices we have all over now.
COVID happy birthday, as we call it.
oh, it's coming. It's a coming.
Isn't it just?
But yeah, I thought this was amazing because I didn't quite register, or at least I don't think we've seen that a lot of people were sheltering in Holloway Road during the war, particularly because Holloway Road is not a very deep station. It's quite, yeah, as Chris said before, it's somewhat shallow. But the only possible explanation for that notice being in those disused and closed corridors of the station would be that they used it for lavatory purposes, for possibly shelterers, because I can't really see any other reason for it to be there.
It's interesting.
It suggests you typically find that near where there are improvised lavatories in sheltering conditions. If you noticed as well on some of those earlier photos of the platform tiling, it's original tiles, and you can see where they've been patch repaired, and that's usually an indicator of bunks having been bolted to the walls in Second World War. So the reason this made me go, ooh, is when I arrived at the station and not knowing its history in wartime, it immediately told me, oh, right, so this had some sheltering history to it.
Mm-hmm.
And
you were talking about the war because it actually received a direct, well, not a direct hit, but it was certainly affected by an explosion nearby, wasn't it?
Yes, and that was the rather catastrophic result.
Whoa! Look at that.
So that was a running tunnel, was it? That was a train tunnel.
This is a running tunnel on the Piccadilly line, and the railway above it, the mainline railway above it, the Great North Eastern, had a direct hit, and it was powerful enough that it went through the ground, and breached the tunnel. So it's a bit like the Balham Hill bomb we've talked about with Clapham. It's just that you're not very far below the ground here at Holloway Road, and it did cause a lot of damage.
As we could see from that exterior shot of the station, when we could see the railway running across the top.
Yeah, and this is the process of them repairing it and getting the Piccadilly line mended and back up and running. It was quite an extensive process to go and clear all of the rubble, repair the tunnel, and repair the track work. So yeah, quite a serious incident. Incredible. Now,
we took a look at the platforms earlier on, but we found some amazing photographs. So I didn't, but they did. Found some amazing photographs of the platforms. And I do like black and white photographs because often they convey mood so much better than colour ones. Chris, there are some stunners out there, and I'm sure Laura's going to love this because it paints that picture of a period in time that is just so evocative. Look at that. Look at Laura. Look at that.
That's such an amazing shot, isn't it? What I love is that you've got the zigzag tiles and then the disc and the bar for the Holloway Road and all these posters as well. I can't even read. A shot in the dark.
It's the Pink Panther, which kind of dates it rather, doesn't it?
The return of the
Can you
Pink
guess
Panther.
the year?
London Pavilion. Oh.
Anybody for Pink Panther's return? What year was that? And also look at that laugh all the way to the bank.
Yes.
This is incredible. I love it. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but they always seem to be far more populated with posters way back then. And look at those amazing, almost Tiffany style lights that lit the platform. Wasn't
nice.
Like tubes like we've got now. Look at that. It's gorgeous. In fact, weren't they, am I right in saying that they were very reminiscent of the lights they used to have in Leslie Green station booking halls as well?
Yeah, they had them on the platforms as well as the booking halls. So those are a standard fitment that you find in Leslie Green stations until fluorescent lights come along and replace them all. So the year is 1976, by the way.
1976.
I remember the first fluorescent light was installed in the underground in October 1945 at Piccadilly Circus, but they didn't replace it in many stations, particularly ones that weren't in central London, until much later. I think in the 80s, a lot of them.
It's very unflattering light, isn't it?
So
go to whenever you buy like energy saving, it's like being in a Portuguese police station.
Yeah, well,
not that I would know.
You have experience of that, do you, Alex?
Not
So
an awful lot, but
let's talk offline about this.
let's do that in the Hangout. But
what comes to mind when I see this is a quote from a person we did an oral history with many years ago called Julian Andrews. We talked about him in the Aldwych episode, I think, but he talked about the neon lights, but he meant fluorescent lights being installed at Piccadilly Circus, and that going through the tube, going to stations that didn't have it, was like being in darkness, and then going through Piccadilly, which had fluorescent lights, was like coming into daylight. So it must have been quite dim.
So Chris, show us another one of the platform, maybe the other direction, because this is, as I said, it's just so pretty to look at that.
I love the banded archways of the tunnel. Isn't that beautiful towards the kind of keystone finish when the train disappears into the dark?
And you know what? They're all still there. It's such a lovely visit. It's, as you say, it's a station that not everyone would consider going to as a destination, but it's absolutely well worth just stepping off a train, having a little look, and then just continuing your journey, because it's such a pretty station at Holloway Road, and the booking hall's lovely. It's just gorgeous. The only time I've ever wandered through there is usually when I'm drunk and I've seen a friend, but it's so lovely to see that station.
And yet you remember it. It's very
impressive. Blurred eyes, Chris. Even through blurred eyes. I love it. One more? We've got one more of the station?
Yeah, why not? Let's do another. Let's do a ticket haul or two. So look, this is shot of the ticket hall from a different angle. You can see it's got a lovely poster just on display there on one of those mobile stands.
Where that Pasimeter, is that Pasimeter?
It is a Pasimeter, yes. Good recall.
Where that Pasimeter is today is the line of the ticket gates.
Yes, absolutely. And there it says, look, lifts on the left-hand side.
It does.
And short stairs to trains, does it say? That is
that's it. It's such a shallow station. They're basically saying, only take the lift if you need it, because they've only got two. So the other thing which is rather nice about that Pasimeter is if you would like to see one of those, then we have one of those wooden ones in our collection at Acton Town Depot. The Museum Depot at Acton Town. Yeah. So pop along and have a look when we're reopened.
Love it. You got to show us another picture. Go on, Chris. This
one I thought was really nice for just showing how well those skylights make it a really bright environment to be in. It's really rather nice. These buildings are often built on top of, they have a design to have a 5-story building on top of their steel frame, but there isn't one here, so the light comes in. It's rather nice.
Gorgeous stuff. We were talking as well about the closure of the mainline railway station. I didn't even know. So this is what I love about these hangouts. I don't even know half this stuff. And there was a mainline station at Holloway Road, wasn't there, that went into King's Cross, and it was linked to Holloway Road Tube by foot, really. But then when they closed it, they created a little poster, didn't they? It was wonderful.
They did. And it's a very, very simple one, but just explaining that it wasn't there anymore.
It's just so lovely, that little nugget of history that we all get to learn about. So Holloway Road Railway Station, who knew? We do now. And it was linked by foot to the Great Northern Piccadilly and Brompton Railway, which became known as the PIC, that we all know now. And the Great Northern Line just along the road was the railway station that it corresponded to. Good stuff. What do you reckon, Laura? That was all right, wasn't it, so far?
Oh, I can't get it all out. The pictures at the end, just loved everything about it. The ticket windows, the lighting, the tiles, the posters, just a little time capsule of loveliness. Just amazing.
This is where it gets really interesting, because so far so good, right? Lovely, lovely. Nice station, nice tiles, blah, 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 blah. Well done, team. This is where it gets really, really exciting, because in 1906, when this station was opened, it opened with a piece of technology that Siddy and Chris are experts in. I've never seen anything like it in my life, and it lasted probably a couple of hours before they went, bad job, this is not going to work. Siddy, Chris, tell us all about it.
So here's Jesse Reno's experimental spiral elevator. Sid, do you want to?
Through escalator, was it?
Yeah. Well, it's technically an elevator, although it's difficult for us to hear that word and not think it's just an American way of saying lift. So it is just it's basically like a wooden belt that came in at an angle that you see there, and it was continually moving and had treads on it, and it had handrails, and it was basically like a circular lift that brought you up to the surface. So yeah, in effect, it's a spiral escalator to our modern understanding, but one that's, I mean, look how narrow it is.
Look at
and
it, trap.
yeah, and it also moved at 100 feet a minute, which is the same speed as a modern escalator today. So imagine that. You're just being sort of pushed. And also when you're moving around something, there are forces at play that push you, you know, out. So I feel like you'd just be falling off constantly.
So a centrifugal force, which basically will separate your blood from your bones, and it gets you out of a tube station. How many minutes did that last, Chris, in operation?
It said that it ran for a day, and it's although it might look terrifying and dangerous, I'm sure it was actually quite a clever idea to look into it and build a test one, because what they were trying to do was use a lift shaft. They used one of the two lift shafts at Holloway Road to build this, to have basically an escalator in it as a continuous flow rather than the stop-start flow that you get with a lift. And it's arranged, you've got these two conveyor belts arranged as a double helix, so one inside the other, one going up, one going down, and they're a continuous belt effectively.
Yeah.
If they had have got this right, then it would have been a very useful thing to have, because you think of all of those stations in the 20s and 30s particularly that were converted to have escalators. They all had to have most of them had to have new ticket offices and, you know, new land boards, because the escalators go out at an angle rather than up and down like the original lift shafts. So it was a good idea. It's just, you know, putting a handrail on it might have been a good one. And
they did have a handrail, Chris. They did.
Well, not here.
No, I don't think this is like the finished product, but they apparently had a handrail on the outside which was moving, and handrail on the inside that was static.
So this was built in 1906, and it lasted, although not in use, until 1911 in the lift shaft before it was broken up, and sort of bits of it fell down into the bottom of the lift shaft and survived. There is a very distant photo of something that looks very similar to this on display at an exhibition at Earl's Court. And the photo is believed to have been taken between 1904 and 1908.
Wow. Whatever the deal, I'm loving the look of it. I wouldn't dream of getting on it. Show us your shaft, Chris, as well. There's a picture of that, isn't there?
Well, before we do that, a part of it survives in our collection at Acton Town.
I don't think I'd dared get on that. That looks lethal. Cool,
you see, it's fairly primitive, but it was a proof of concept design.
It's novel. And then the shaft.
Yeah, and this is the place where those parts were rescued from by the gentleman that Sudi was talking to yesterday.
So it was opened in 1906 with a set of lifts and a shonky old escalator, and it lasted a day, and then they shut it all off, binned it, and then into the museum at Acton, a lump of it went. And there we are.
Synopsis by Alex.
There we are. There we are. In a nutshell, that is the joy of Holloway Road. That was pretty cool. I like that episode. That was brilliant. Well done, everybody. Listen, we need to tell you about Chris Nix just being a star, because we were on BBC Radio London this week with Joe Good. Hello, Joe. Lovely. And thanks ever so much for watching. Thanks for being part of this mad caper. But we had to say that Chris had a bit of a splendid day doing something absolutely amazing that all the girls in London love him for now. What happened, Chris?
Well, I was off down to some of the deep shelters with the tunnel inspection teams from London Underground, and I was just doing some comparative study between those shelters and the one that I look after at Clapham South that belongs to the museum. And when we arrived at one of them, we knew that there had been a break-in some weeks before, by some people going urban exploring, and they had left the building open when they left. And when we arrived, as a gentleman pointed out, that a local lady had been missing her cat for several weeks. And I went into there thinking, oh dear, well, I hope I don't find a cat that's no longer with us when we get down there. And so myself and two colleagues from the underground were looking out for the cat when we went around, and eventually we found the cat at the very, very far end of the shelter. Had managed to survive for several weeks. Hasib managed to persuade the cat to come down the stairs. Paul and I tried to round it up, and it ran off into this enormous shelter full of racking, a shelter that was built for 8,000 people. And we then spent the next few hours trying to track the cat down. Hasib eventually managed to persuade it to go into a vault where we could sort of calm it down, and I managed to persuade it to let me pick it up and carry it up the stairs. And so Nora, the cat, lived to tell another tale. Camden Journal, front cover.
Oh,
Look at that.
Really
she
liked it.
looks kind of annoyed that this has happened to her on that photo.
And Nora the
Ow.
Explorer, as they dubbed it, was
Love
reunited
it.
with her owner.
Meow.
And this was Nora after I just brought her to the surface. She was a very, very sweet cat, and rather remarkably, as soon as I saw her underneath, hiding under the racking, I looked at her ears and went, "Oh, you're a Norwegian forest cat, just like the ones I have." And so it proved to be. Nora is a Norwegian forest cat.
Come on, then, give us
Oh.
another picture.
There we go. And one more when she started meowing because she wanted to go home at this point.
She is beautiful.
Very sweet.
Oh,
Very
she looks so.
beautiful.
She looks like she's so hungry.
She's thirsty, that girl. She's thirsty. I'll tell you
Mm.
something, Chris, a little surprise for you, because we were so wowed by what you did and how handsome and manly you were. We enlisted the help of Laura's daughter, Evie, and she has awarded you Pussy of the Year Award 2021, and you now have a certificate. Laura, show Chris his certificate.
I
Oh,
would
my
love to show you the certificate. And I have to say personally, I don't know what other certification, apart from one that is valid by Siddy, Alex, and myself in swirly letters, is more valuable. I did not come up with the title, neither did my daughter. That's Alex Grundon's work. I just want to point that out. But this,
I'm
Chris,
astonished.
is for you.
Oh,
A certificate for amazing bravery. But the icing on the cake is we thought you deserved an award as well, not just a piece of paper. So this, Chris, is you.
There you go, Chris. That would be
This is on its way to you in the post. Well done, Chris.
I hope,
Wow.
Chris, that you give that pride of place.
well, I'm deeply honoured, and if it isn't intercepted by the Royal Mail and confiscated, then I will display that with pride. And thanks to Barbara
You
and
are
the children
in
also
the
for
news as
sending me
well.
a photo of Nora.
Oh my God, you can have a little pussy shrine at home.
It's all there. It's all there. Well done. That's
What a
sweet.
strange week it was.
What a great week it was, and what a wonderful episode.
Oh God, this made me cry.
Congratulations, Chris.
I'm
Well-
emotional, Chris. I'm so proud of it.
Do you
Oh,
notice
bless
that-
I'm just very glad that some people breaking into a site and leaving it open didn't end in the loss of a cat, or indeed loss of a child or something like that. So we're just glad it had a good ending.
It's absolutely true. That's the reason why urban exploring is so frowned upon, because you just don't know what's going to happen. There are tours of places like this. Best to go the right way. Chris, before we start NQQ, I've got a bit of a whopper to show you. Would you just bear with me a minute?
Mm.
I've just got to get up. And I'm just going to do this because this is
Oh,
Reno.
Whoa.
Look at that, kids.
That's a
Fresnel,
beauty.
Fresnel, call it what you like. That is my lovely restored Fresnel lens.
Wow.
Beautiful.
I fear that there are now ships crashing into a coastline somewhere because you've got that out of a lighthouse. That's huge.
Looking up there, it's actually a 737 heading straight to. Quite worrying, really. But there we go. So Fresnel Lens, just to prove I can say it right. Okay, next queries and questions. The stuff that you've sent us, we love. Alex McKenna says, why did the Met put their station at Euston Square instead of close to the mainline station? Anybody? Or is that one for another day?
Available land, and remember they were digging it under the road. The entrance to Euston Station was set back a lot further than it is now originally. So it is quite away from the front, but they didn't have the land. The line itself had to be underneath the main road, and that was the closest they could get.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much. Richard Jenkins says, finally getting to watch one of these amazing hangouts from Lawrence, Massachusetts in the US of A. Now then, Marlborough Road, question from Alex McKenna again. I'm slightly confused about the operation of this station. If it was only a one-track operation, was there only one platform at Marlborough Road? Would trains going south and stopping at Marlborough Road be going the wrong way to non-stopping trains? Were there non-stopping Metropolitan line trains? It was because it was a passing point, wasn't it?
That's right. Each of the stations were basically a passing point. So the platforms, there was the two tracks in the platform areas with points either side, so the trains could pass in the stations.
Justin 423, we were talking about censuses or census and the plural of
censuses.
He says, I love a declension. I don't know about you, Laura. I love a declension. If it stayed unchanged from Latin, a plural of census would be census because it's fourth declension in one day. But in English, you add ES or SES for censuses.
Yeah, OED says censuses.
I've had this similar problem with other words, so that's good to know.
It normally depends whether it's from the Greek or the Latin as to how you do that, the ending of it. So establish whether it's a Greek or a Latin word first, and then brace yourself for exceptions.
You'll find, Siddy, you will need to declench 4 times.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good, helpful point.
I've been clenched through quite a lot of this episode.
Especially the last 5 minutes. Jen K, Laura, says, I remember the Suburbia exhibition that you put on. First time I've been to the London Transport Museum for various reasons, mostly flights dropping below 1,500 Australian dollars and being able to fly on the A380. I impulse bought a flight to London and spent 3 weeks wandering everywhere. I've been before, but this was just when I really fell in love with the city. So she remembers your Suburbia exhibition, Laura.
I love that, and I hope you had a really wonderful trip as well. But that exhibition was my first role at the museum, was to programme the events calendar around that exhibition, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was fabulous, so I hope you enjoyed the exhibition too.
Lovely stuff. P. Danny H says, would we ever consider doing a Hidden London hangout on the East London line, especially Brunel's Tunnel, because it fascinates him and he reckons it would fascinate others. And I think it's a pretty cool subject, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Old school underground.
We're in.
Yeah. Finty Tin, love your name, says, your charming vids are the highlight of my weekend. Any chance of doing either, beat this, South Kentish Town or York Road? Bingo! Twice. They're both on the list to do. Dazzling Daz, love the episode as usual. Another place to hang out and hope that Siddy and Laura can open a cafe one day at Marlborough Road.
Oh,
do you know what? I think it's a possibility. Siddy and I are very good bakers. Very good, if I say so myself.
I think you're a bit better than me. I think I know how to do like 3 things. So I wouldn't bring quantity to the cafe, but it would be quality.
I like that. Small menu.
I've said that all through my life, Siddy. All through my life. It's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. And Imran says, London is very, very nice. I'm your new subscriber from Afghanistan. Our tentacles extend further and further. And we mentioned it before, Joe Good, thank you so much for having Chris and me on your programme. We love you and we're so
great fun.
Shows as well. So much fun. So much fun. Poor old Joe went a little bit weak at the knees when you were talking about rescuing that cat. It was fun. So, Siddy, your station, we love you. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you, guys. What a joy. Absolutely loved it.
Our tile mistress, Laura Hilton Brown, thank you so much.
No, go bold, Holiday Road, loved it.
Loved it, loved it. And Chris Nix, we love you too. You were a star.
Yeah, it's great to go to this one today. Really enjoyed it. And yeah, can't wait to see you again next week.
We look forward to you rescuing another cat and another award. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's Alex Grunden, Chris Nix, City Holloway and Hidden London Law. Don't forget at LT Museum as well. And on YouTube, you found us. Thank you. Subscribe, like and comment below. If you've got a question about anything to do with London's transport or indeed its history, then drop us a message and we'll get it answered for you. Next time, we're off to somewhere amazing. Don't forget Patreon because we're fabulous on there too. Have yourself a great day and stay safe.